Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. And I have for you today a brand new, way past what the fuck, from Michael Campy. This is from Friday, August 30th. If not now, when? Come gather around, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown. And accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, and you'd better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a changin'. And if that sounds familiar, that's from that Bob Dylan song. I've been talking to a lot of people about our predicament lately, and it seems as if some of them at least have intellectually accepted the idea of near-term human extinction. They agree that things are bad and that there is no hope for the survival of the species, but they don't do anything to change how they are living. They tell me that they have to keep doing what they are doing because they have no choice, but at this late stage, I would propose that they do have a choice. The choice between spending their final days, weeks, months, or years living the pointless, mediocre existence that they have always lived, or begin to do something meaningful with the time there is left. To me, the idea of just going on as I have been and then dying is the most horrible thing. Whoop. Yeah. Feel the heat emanating from the video. To me, the idea of just going on as I have been and then dying is the most horrible thing that could happen. I am in a somewhat privileged position in that I have sold my house and now have a little money to exist on. In addition to selling the house, I have sold all the tools that I used in my former business. This is a decision that I did not take lightly, as I now have no means to continue to make money. Money, however, is becoming much less important. What is important is talking to trees and listening to trees, building a tribe, taking care of the land and the people I love, and doing that for as long as possible. Even if you are not in a position to drop everything, I would like to suggest that you begin the process of divesting yourself of unneeded baggage. If you believe that we are in trouble, then it is time to start internalizing that, start to really accept our collective fate instead of just reading articles about it. This is not to disparage the people who do read articles and try to raise awareness of the issue. There will come a time, though, in the not too distant future when the articles will no longer be there to read. There will come a time in the not too distant future when there will be only the people you have surrounded yourself with. They will become the most important part of your life. The Facebook friends will be gone. The bloggers will be gone. The YouTube channels will be gone. And unless you take steps to surround yourself with real live people, you will be alone. If you think about that, I hope that you will start this process. The real live people are going to be all you have. Nature, or what is left of it, is going to be all you have. You are going to have to make some hard decisions, decisions that will alienate a significant number of the friends and partners who are in your life. You can do this now, or maybe wait and see. My vote is now. I almost screamed at a friend of mine the other day who believes we are on the way out, but continues to think that he needs to continue doing what he is doing. He could stop right now, but he won't. He's kind of like someone who sort of believes in God. He may not buy it fully, but he wants to hedge his bets. So instead of embracing a life of meaning, he just plods along thinking he can just get his taxes paid or his credit cards paid down or a little more money in the bank. I cannot talk to him anymore because his acceptance is still intellectual. I am listening to Bob Dylan, and I think on some level he knew even way back then. Songs that had meaning in the 60s are starting to have a whole new meaning now. Our time is winding down, and we get to move past petty arguments. We get to become the people we are meant to be. If you consider yourself a thoughtful, caring individual, then perhaps it is a good point to start living that. Indeed, and this kind of follows up what I was talking about yesterday. About making the changes. If you can, if and when you can, and sometimes you're going to have to make the changes, even if it's uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable one way or the other, now or later. Moving on. to the story out of Cape Town. So Cape Town, South Africa, was one of the cities in the last few years who have gotten very close to running out of water. They had an extreme drought. I think it was just last year. And the whole city did some extreme rationing, and I guess they staved off disaster. But now they're dealing with something else, sea level rise. Rising sea levels are causing problems for Cape Town. A rise in the level of the sea caused by global warming is already causing damage to public and private coastal property in Cape Town. In some areas, retreat to higher ground may be necessary. The coast at Milnerton, in particular, is being affected by erosion, with the public beach under the city of Cape Town's jurisdiction having been washed away by erosion and storm surges. The city is currently assessing options which include a retreat for a section of the coast in Milnerton, says MACO member for Spatial Planning and Environment, Marianne Niewoot. I think that was it. At a public participation meeting on the draft coastal bylaw on August 15th, Niewoot said a report by the newly appointed city engineers was on her desk, which identified risks on the city's coastline. Responding via email to follow-up questions, she said the report dealt with vulnerable structures in Milnerton and would be made available to the public in due course. Other than Milnerton, there are numerous other areas on Cape Town's coast being affected, such as Glencairn, Hout Bay, and Sea Point. So I'm not going to read any more of this. I'm going to link this below. Interestingly, I had a chance to have a conversation with a guy that was from Cape Town, and that was my kind of first thing I brought up to him was about their drought and the water issue, and he was like, yeah, it was, it's pretty scary. We all learned to live very, very differently. And he's like, now I take that, how I live in the face of running out of water, I take that wherever I go. And I was like, that's brilliant. The entire planet needs to live, at least for sure, first world level countries, need to live with that resource scarcity in mind, which they generally do not. And then we talked about other cities that were running out of water. We talked about India. We talked about all kinds of things. But the funny, when we were first talking about the lack of water in Cape Town, he was like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, I know what's going on. We never actually said the word climate change. But anyways, it was an interesting conversation, and he seemed to be glad for my knowledge around the issue. Lastly, in this video, I want to cover this video that Tim sent me, I believe, but this is an interesting video, so I'm not going to play any of it. I'm going to link it below. You guys can watch it. The title is a little bit misleading because it's saying that planting trees can no longer save us. If we continue to do what they don't say, they don't follow up that statement with, if we continue to keep doing what we're doing. So they're saying that, sucking carbon out of the air, it will only suck, so much carbon out of the air if we planted so many trees. Saying that, it would only, I think the number is 3 billion tons of CO2 out of the air, and we pump 10 times that every year or something like that. A large amount of CO2 goes in the air every year. The thing is that if you coupled planting trees with reducing emissions and reducing human population, they also talked about the fact that the trees would take up, huge areas of land. And they're like, well, how are we going to grow food for 8 billion people? Well, so there was a lot of, I don't understand the point of this video on some level, other than to tell people, to give people really bad news and make people not, go, oh, well, we're all going to die. Here we go. But, so this is not an elevated discussion about climate change. This is a very, singular topic, kind of very focused on this one idea of planting trees, and that's going to be the cure. And one thing is not going to cure anything. One thing is not going to lift us out of the abyss of, climate despair. We're going to have to do a bunch of things. We're going to have to, totally reconfigure how people live. We're going to have to stop using fossil fuels. We're going to have to definitely reduce the population of humans on this planet, not by being Thanos, but by having, compassionate, thoughtful discussions about how can we do this. The obvious choice is limiting the number of births very quickly and very soon. Limiting the number of births. How do we go about doing that? How do we do that in a compassionate way? How do we thoughtfully address this problem? So yeah, there was a lot of nuance that was left out of this video, making it rendering this video somewhat useless. However, it has 662,000 views, so there's a lot of people going, oh well, too bad. Yeah. So anyways, that's all I have for you today in this video. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time.